Hello and welcome to day 10 of our personal leadership challenge. Graham Wilson here, and today I promise to share with you some insights and ideas about how to run meetings, in particular how to run virtual meetings. So I want to really share some fundamentals first and the importance of meetings, and love them or hate them, meetings are really important for you as a leader in order to get stuff done. When we're working with teams, teams actually come together to solve problems, to be able to move forward. So it's really important that we actually are really effective at being able to collaborate, have great conversations, and be able to really plan, prepare, and conduct really effective meetings. Let me ask you what the most important thing is about a meeting. And when I ask that to people, normally they say things like, well, it's got to have an agenda, it has to have a purpose, you have to have the right people there. And that's absolutely right. You need to have a purpose. There's no point having a meeting without a purpose. And that actually then links to lots of different types of meetings, whether it's a tactical meeting, a get-together, a review of how the team's working. It might be more of a strategic meeting. It might be a problem-solving meeting. It might be a whole innovation type, hackathon type meeting. So a whole variety of different types of meetings, but a purpose is really important. And you only invite people, don't you, that are going to add value to the meeting, but also will actually get value from the meeting. If they can't answer those two questions, then they shouldn't be there. We don't need any politics or inviting people because they need to be seen at meetings. That sort of stuff needs to go in today's world. We need to invite people there who are going to add value or get value from the meeting. So a purpose is definitely really important. Having the right people is really important as well. And I think the key thing for me really is around making sure that you might have an agenda. I guess in a tactical meeting, it's probably just a process. If it's a more structured problem-solving meeting, you've worked out an agenda, and we'll show you how to do that in a moment. But for me, the most important thing on a meeting, for any meeting, is the output. What is it I want people to go and do? What is it I want them to go and feel like? What is it I want them to go and say after the meeting? So when you think about that, how many of us actually plan our meetings from that viewpoint of, this is what I want to get as an outcome. This is the purpose of the meeting. How do I get from where we are now to that outcome? And let me share with you. Yesterday I shared with you a little tool we use called a moodogram, which is a great tool to review people's feelings. So let me use that tool again and show you the importance of that when we think about meetings. So the key thing about meetings is that it is really about the output. So if I draw my moodogram again, so we've got the positive energy up here. We've got the negative energy here. This would be the start of the meeting, and this would be the end of the meeting. And when you think about this concept, at the end of the meeting, where do I want people to be? Well, I need them to be at the maximum point of desire in order for them to go and do the actions, or to feel the way, or to go and say the things that we need them to go and do. So when we think about planning a meeting, in order to achieve those outcomes, what must we do in the meeting? And when you think about it, if I'm going to take people from a neutral point here, I want to get them excited about meeting. So I need to really get them before the meeting. I need to raise their awareness. And so things like talking to them, getting them to come from a personal invite point of view, rather than putting the date in the diary. Actually ring them, speak to them and say, look, we've got this virtual meeting coming up. It's really important you're there. I think you can add value. The purpose of the meeting is this. Can you be there? And those sort of things are really important. Having an agenda. So the idea before the meeting is we need to sell the importance. So having a purpose is really important. Having some sort of reason why people need to be there. And also, if it's appropriate, having some sort of agenda so that people can have a look at it and get excited about it and really can't wait to actually get there. Now, of course, when they arrive, the meeting needs to be set up. It needs to be well orchestrated. So thinking about from a virtual point of view, you think about the technology, make sure you know how to use technology, make sure people are briefed, there's some ground rules, all that sort of good stuff needs to happen in place. And maybe we need to share some bad news. So I always recommend you share the challenge stuff at the start. So might take a little bit of negativity here and might even dip into a little bit of negative attitude here, but that gives us more time now to be able to get back up to here in order to get our results. And really what we're doing from a planning point of view when we're running meetings is we're thinking around what are all the steps that we need to take along this journey in order to get our outcome. And that's really what I want to share with you today is how do you do that? When you think about most meetings, what would most meetings, I don't know why I've picked a pink pen up, but I have. What do most meetings look like? Well, most meetings, you don't really know why you've been invited. You just see this diary invite, pop up in your Outlook calendar, or a Teams invite, or whatever, a Zoom meeting, whatever. But when you get there, you see your friends, it's all good, and then it sort of goes down a little bit like this, isn't it? And it sort of falls down here, and then round about here. I don't know about you, a lot of meetings are just basically a list, aren't they, with any other business at the end. Round about here, someone says on the call, I go, so any other business, and you've got that really important thing you need to go and do after the meeting, and it's going to finish at 10 o'clock, let's say. And round about here, someone says, anything else one of people say? And then someone then drops that grenade into the meeting, don't they? You think, oh my God, no way. And you end up late. So you're late for your next appointment, your next piece of work, and you leave there in a negative way. Is that true? Been to meetings like that? So meetings need to be planned, don't they? Need to be prepared, and need to think about, what outcome do I want? I don't want to get people leaving the meeting feeling negative. Even if it's bad news, I want them to leave feeling inspired and going away with something to actually go and do, to feel positive, to feel confident, and know what the next step is, even if it's really, really bad news. What happens here, of course, it gets worse because people just agree to things, don't they, to get out of the meeting. Yeah, I'll do that, because they're worried about what they're going to do next. So what happens next, of course, is they don't do the things that they should be doing because the meeting's not being very well run. And then you have to have another meeting to check up and find out why they didn't do the things they said they're going to do. So it just gets worse and worse and worse. So I want to change that, really. And you should never really run a meeting which is really just a wish list, isn't it? That's just a wish list with any other business, because that's a habit, that's what we do. And we need to change that and start to think about, in terms of how I plan a meeting, how I prepare a meeting, how I then conduct that meeting, and then how do I make sure that I follow up in order to be really, really successful. So I said that I'm going to focus on virtual meetings. So in the website, I'm going to give you a toolkit. It's a Meetings That Rock toolkit. It's a really powerful toolkit. It explains all this concept, but also explains some of the tools and techniques which are really important. So, for example, if I'm preparing a meeting here, I know that it's a structured meeting and I need to have an agenda, then I have a template I can use which helps me with my planning. So if this is my template, I always start off here because obviously there's a purpose statement. So it's good to start a purpose statement with a verb and a statement. And then, obviously who's going to be there, roles and responsibilities, you might have the logistics and timings, all that stuff. And then the agenda itself, really, I break it down into time, the topic that we're going to discuss, who's going to actually lead that particular topic, how are we going to tackle that topic, so what tools are we going to use, and what's the expected outcome for each of the agenda items. So when I brainstorm this, what I do is I get a few of these, get a few post-it notes, and I go, right, okay, so I know what the purpose of the meeting is, so I write down the purpose, explore ideas about how to solve X, Y, and Z. Okay, let's say it's that for argument's sake. So in order to get people to have contributed, to feel part of it, to understand we have a problem, to be able to offer their insights and ideas, to be able to then have an action plan to go forward, what must I do? So in order to do that, I need to share what the problem is, so write that down there. I need to make sure people get buy-in to the idea, so I'd write that down on another post note, and so on. So I then think, okay, what tools and techniques can we use to generate ideas? Who solved the problem before? What techniques can we use? And what I'm doing is I'm brainstorming, and what I'm doing, of course, is these post-it notes then start to become, don't they? So I've got all these post-it notes, and I actually put them in a timeline, and they start to then become the sequence of get to this outcome here. And what I then do is I then write these post-it notes down into topic items here. And a big tip here is you turn a topic into a question, because leadership really is all about asking the right questions, isn't it? So if I write the topic as a question, so why are we here? What is the problem we're facing? What will happen if we don't solve it and we're actually asking a set of questions? What ideas do we actually have? And then we go on in terms of, okay, so what are we actually going to do? What's our next steps? And we start to then create a storyboard, a journey along the way. So, why are we here? What's the problem? What will happen if we don't solve a problem? What ideas we have? Who solved the problem before? Let's prioritize those ideas. Now let's generate an action plan. Okay, let's summarize and go again. So I've created this whole series of topics ask questions. And the great thing about questions is when people see questions on an agenda, of course, they start thinking about them, don't they, before they get to the meeting. So they start to get intrigued. They start answering them, because if I ask you a question, you're going to answer it, aren't you? Absolutely. So the key thing here is we write down the topics. We then think about who's best. So maybe I'll do that one, Bob, Susan, Jill, Nick, whatever, and then Graham at the end here. How we're going to do it really is what are the tools I'm going to use. Okay, so might use hopes and fears as a tool. We might use gap analysis to understand the problem and the implication of the problem. We then, in terms of generating ideas, we might use radiant problem solving. We might use the ease impact grid. Then we might actually use a game plan or 5 bold steps, and then a summary, and then away we go. The outcomes, of course, hopes and fears. We've got buy-in and clarity. We understand the problem. We've generated top 3 ideas. Ease impact, we prioritise those ideas. What's this game plan? So we've got clear accountabilities and commitments. And then obviously then we've got that urge for action and that inspiration. So we've taken people through this journey to a point where they are going to achieve and leave the meeting in a really powerful way. I can then work out, can't I, if I know what these tools are, I can then work out the timings. So that's going to take, say, 10 minutes, and that's going to be another 15 minutes there, another 20 minutes there. Ease impacts, we're going to be another 10 minutes. Game plan, I think another 10 minutes here, and a summary 5 minutes. So I now know that this meeting is going to take this time, and I can then start to plan that accordingly and make sure that we don't run a standard 1 hour meeting or 2 hours. And if I need 30 minutes, I need 30 minutes. If I need 2 hours, we need 2 hours. It's important to actually put the right time based on the output and the outcomes you're trying to achieve. So there's my real thoughts around meetings. So on the website, there'll be the toolkit called Meetings at Rock. You can have that as my gift. It's my pleasure. In there, you'll see a lot of these tools, a lot of the ideas and thoughts around it, around how to set the environment up, how to deal with difficult people, how to challenge, how to facilitate, all those key things. And what I like to do now is to hop into a one-pager that we have developed based on virtual meetings, and take you through that and share with you some ideas and insights around what are the key tips and hints and ideas about running virtual meetings. So let's go and have a look. Let me guide you through this one pager. So it looks quite a lot of text to start with, but it is a straightforward format once you understand it. So across the top, we have the sections called crafting, aligning, doing, agreeing, and implementing. And that's what we recommend are the things that you should be doing along the way to get a really good outcome for your meeting. A lot of people go straight into the doing, but the crafting is what we talked about on the video so far about, have I designed the right approach to the meeting? Do I really need a meeting? What's the purpose of the meeting? What's the best way of doing this meeting? Aligning is about selling the idea of the meeting and get everyone there and they can contribute fully. They want to be there, they're inspired to be there. And actually doing stage is obviously the virtual meeting where we're using the right collaboration tools to be effective. So things like the gap leap and the radiant problem solving and all those tools are shared before on the agenda. And things like agreeing as well is really important to make sure that we have an effective decision-making process in place and a really good way of collating actions. And then implementing, of course, is everyone's committed, they're inspired to go and do something about it, and they want to make the action happen. So the whole follow-up process is really, really important. So that's our process, crafting, aligning, doing, agreeing, and implementing. I've just gone through the purpose of each stage as well. What we then do, if we take the crafting column, the first column on the left-hand side there, you can see some of the key activities that we can do, like confirm purpose, generate ideas, develop agenda, select approach. And then the outcomes we're looking for are create agenda, gain buy-in, chosen the right technology. And then underneath that, the final bit is the key questions to guide your action. So have you thought about the purpose? Are you clear about the outcomes? How do you want people to feel? What do you want people to go and do after the meeting? What's the best structure? What's the best technology, tools, and techniques to use? So the set of questions there really to guide you and get you thinking around what best to do. And then obviously then you move to the next column, aligning, and you can read the key things there. I won't go through those. And then the doing, agreeing, and implementing. And there's some really good ideas and thoughts and techniques and a clarity really of just making sure we speed up by slowing down. The second page is really our tips and hints and ideas. So on the left-hand side, you've got the types of virtual meetings and then things to do before, things to do during, and things to do after the meeting. So same process of crafting, aligning, doing, agreeing, and implementing. And then the types of meetings you might have: emotional check-ins, particularly important at the moment, communication meetings, data gathering, idea generating, team building, reviewing and learning, which we talked about in a previous video, problem solving, decision making, all of the above in one go. We're pretty full on meeting that one, wasn't it? Coaching, mentoring, and obviously team meetings. And I'm sure there's other types of virtual meetings, but you would think about virtual meetings, all the stuff we know about face-to-face meetings, a lot of the good stuff there, we still need to continue using in virtual meetings. And the sort of things to do before there really is get the mindset right, get you in the right frame of mind, make sure you don't do back-to-back meetings, make sure you know the technology, have a practice first, contact a colleague and have a play around with it, make sure that we really know all the tips and hints and ideas about using technology. Think about what's behind your camera. It's quite an interesting one. It's certainly from a confidential point of view. And so sometimes I see people sat in front of windows that can make you really dark and you can't see the face. But sometimes I see whiteboards behind people with lots of information there. So make sure that you don't have anything confidential behind you that you don't want other people to see. Some of the software like Teams that we use, and I'm not sure whether Zoom can or not, but I'm pretty sure there are other software systems out there that can blur the background, which can help if you're at home and you've got a difficulty, you're in the kitchen or in the dining room or the lounge or whatever, and you've got kids around and all that sort of stuff. Make sure you get the lighting right. Just make sure you got a light on you. I think it's quite a good idea just to get any light, table light or whatever. That's something I'll do. You don't have to go out and buy one, but any light on your face is good. Make sure the household know you're on a call, so get a busy sticker on the door or whatever, or if you can, leave a note on the door if expecting deliveries. It's nothing worse than getting a doorbell going off when you're in a really important conference call or virtual meeting. Get some water, drinks, comforts, notepads, all the key things. Make sure, it's a good tip here, make sure on your computer that when you are asked to share files or you're going to share files, make sure there's nothing else there on your desktop that you don't want people to see as well. So nothing worse than having a file called reorganization or something like that on your desktop when people see that and you'll lose them in the meeting straight away. Test and ensure your equipment's okay, your PC, your mic and your headset, all that stuff. Use a scheduling tool, so reminders are sent. So when you phone up people initially, you get them on board, you share the purpose and the agenda and why they need to be there, what value they're going to get from the meeting, and then to put it into an electronic format so that the scheduling tool will send reminders out as and when required. And another idea, a big one really for virtual meetings and something that is really important is to actually make sure you've got a list of names on a call. I tend to have a list of names and I have like 4 or 5 different columns. And the idea is what I do is that when I'm checking in with people, what I do is I go through that list of names, calling names out in different orders. So it keeps people on their toes. It's not the same way again. It's a really good way of actually getting people engaged, and they never know when they're going to be asked a question of what we should do next or what their thoughts are and things like that. So in terms of during, get online before the meeting 10 minutes early if you can. Make sure everyone knows the purpose of the meeting and any roles that you particularly have. Connect the participants if they don't know each other. Use the names often, so you've got your list of names there. Ensure you include everyone's hopes and fears and set the ground rules in terms of no multitasking, all that sort of stuff. Do a round robin check-in with everyone. So as you're going through the agenda, you can't actually sort of get that feeling, can you, in a virtual meeting of actually being in the same room. So every 15 minutes maximum, sometimes more than that. But just do a check-in. So how are you feeling? Okay, Susan, what do you think about that? Okay, Dave, are you okay with that? Martin, are you okay with that? What do you think? And you're just going round in that round robin check with everyone on a regular basis. Chunk the meetings down. It's okay to have a break when you're on virtual meetings. You don't have to be there for hours and hours on end. It's okay to go and have a coffee break or go and have a walk or have a reflect and think about it. So build some reflection into the agenda. Make sure you use the right interactive tools to manage the tasks and that you stay present in the meeting, and there's a balance between statements and offloads and information and questions and debate and discussion. And it's really important, I think, to summarize the meeting throughout. So keep summarizing, make sure people are on their track in terms of the agenda. It's quite a good idea to have the agenda up on the screen so people can see it and tick things off as they go through and make sure everyone's clear about the next steps and their actions. And then immediately after it is, in today's world, you can have someone recording the notes, can't you, as the meeting's happening on there, so they get the notes straight away. Communicate to stakeholders, the rest of the business, about what happened in the meeting. Check in with individuals as appropriate, and then that whole thing about follow up, hold people accountable, and really make sure that people do the things they said they're going to do. So it's a good idea to make sure you book the next meeting, and not a check-in, I suppose, it's just to make sure that we're on track and we're actually reviewing and we're going in the right direction. So there we have it, a quick overview of meetings, in particular virtual meetings. I hope you really enjoyed that, got some good insights and good ideas. So just think about the meetings you're going to run this week and beyond, and think about how you can actually prepare them more effectively. Get yourself some post-it notes in order to develop the outcomes you want. How am I going to get there? Think about the tools and techniques you're going to use, and use those tips and download the toolkit, download the one pager, and use those tips and hints and ideas that we share with you to make sure that your meetings are really, really effective going forward. Tomorrow, I'm going to share with you a very quick overview of how you unleash innovation. And I'm going to take it from the point of view, from a leadership point of view. How do you as a leader, how do you start to think and work and collaborate with your teams to really unleash innovation within what we do? And let's face it, we need that in today's world. So we'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.